Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited and grateful to begin the fifth and final workshop of our series with CBSE on the topic From Insight to Impact, Self-Reflection Strategies for CBSE Students in Their Career Planning. My name is Kritika and I serve as the Assistant Director for Academics at IC3 Institute. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of the amazing students, parents, and educators who have joined us today. So to begin our workshop, I'd like to invite Mr. Ganesh Kohli, the founder of IC3 Movement, to set the context for today's session.
Thank you very much, Kritika, and a very warm welcome to all our young friends who've joined us, the students and parents who would have joined us, as well as educators today. As we move forward and make decisions about what subjects to study, what colleges to apply to, what to do post-school, we encourage that we make these decisions by looking not just on the outside, but on the inside. That we look within ourselves and find our own unique paths rather than be on a borrowed path. Just like we spend time studying subjects, we spend time studying careers, colleges, and studying our own selves. I once met a 26-year-old dentist who told me that I'm fed up of looking at ugly teeth for 5 years. And my instant thought was, if only he had peeped into some people's mouth when he was in 11th grade to know that while the whole world was asking him to become a dentist, it was not his path. And similarly, so many young people are making accidental choices. I'm an engineer by education, but also by accident. And this young girl I met in Lucknow, she told me that, sir, I want to study law or medicine. She knew everything about law, she knew everything about medicine, but she knew nothing about herself. So I'm encouraging all my young friends here today to actually be on a path of exploring what is on the outside, but also exploring what is on the inside. It's so important that you discover your own competence while you look at the competition outside. When you marry, your decision making is actually coming out of a marriage of the competition which you are seeing around you and the competence that you have. It takes different sets of skills to become a lawyer or a doctor. And it's important to know what your values are, what your skills are, what your interests are as you make this decision. And finally, I want to, leave you with an acronym, MRF to RDD. MRF stands for memorize, repeat, follow rigid instructions. We've kind of memorized our ideas about what works in terms of career and college choices. We are largely repetitive in terms of the majors that we choose out of school. And then we follow some very rigid protocols or rules which don't necessarily work today. History is not repeating itself when it comes to careers and colleges anymore. So MRF doesn't necessarily work, memorizing, repeating, and following rigid instructions when it comes to career and college decision making. Instead, we could be on a path of RDD. RDD stands for research, design, and development. That you would keep doing research who you are, research what's available outside, design a pathway, design a path for yourself ahead, and then keep developing it because your ideas might change from 9th grade to 10th grade to 11th grade to 12th grade. Your ideas will change. Into college, your ideas will change, which is perfectly fine. But we keep developing. Confusion is actually normal. Research is the solution. And that's what this session is about. We've got a stellar lineup of speakers, and I wish you a great session. Thank you, Kritika, for having me here.
Thank you so much, Ganesh, for setting the tone and giving us something to reflect on as we begin the learning experience today. So I'm excited that today's learning experience is actually going to be built on relating a lot of our learning to our favorite scenes from our popular culture cinematic universe examples. And to get us started, I just want to play a small clip for you all, and then I'm going to invite our first speaker of the day. Just give me a moment.
Rumpus.
The scepter. You see, we were wondering how Strucker got so inventive. So I've been analyzing the gem. Inside, you may recognize
Jarvis?
Doctor. Started out, Jarvis was just a natural language UI. Now he runs the Iron Legion. He runs more of the business than anyone besides Pepper.
Oh.
Top of the line.
Yes?
I suspect not for long.
Meet the competition.
Absent. Good job.
It's beautiful.
You had to guess, what's it look like?
Like
doing?
it's thinking. I mean, this could be, it's not a human mind. I mean, look at this. They're like neurons firing.
Down at Strucker's lab, I saw some fairly advanced robotics work. They deep sixed the data, but I gotta guess he was knocking on a very particular.
My apologies. I think we're facing a bit of a technical glitch. I'm just going to bring up the video back in a moment. But before that, I do see Dr. Sayam Bharadwaj has joined us. And if it's okay, I'm just going to invite him for a moment to share a few words with us. And so Dr. Sayam Bharadwaj is the controller of examination for CBSE. He's an expert in managing large-scale exams, school education, and examination processes. He excels in education policy, development, ICT integration, capacity building, vocational education, and distance learning. Dr. Bharadwaj has authored 7 internationally presented research papers and numerous articles. His contributions have earned him prestigious awards, including Digital India Award from the Government of India and the Leader of the Year Award from multiple organizations.
Help of the counseling, we can see the better output in our system also. Not only in our system, in each and every corner of the society, if there is some issue, so that issue could be resolved with the help of the counseling. And now the issue is that CBSE, being the pace setting national board, decided to come with Mr. Ganesh and the issues which are taking place in our schools, especially in the youth, should be addressed with the help of the counseling only. I had been to a similar session earlier. I am in the company of Mr. Ganesh and the company of the similar kind of people, and I had seen the kind of changes which they will bring into your life. Therefore, it was decided that we will be having few sessions with our stakeholders so that the things will improve. Not only they would be performing better, but also that they would be performing more qualitatively also. There won't be any other issues. They would be able to manage each and everything like tension, stress, personal relationship, better output, doing lot of work in very short time. All these are the output, I would say, of the better counseling thing. The only issue which I would say to each and everyone, that attend the session with full mind. Don't do any other work. When you are on the online system, certainly sometimes we are just shifting our mind to some other work also. So focus on the meeting, focus on the training part, focus on the discussion part, which will take place today. And believe me, take the affidavit from me that after this session, you would find a change in yourself. You would be forced to think a lot of good things. One thing I would like to explain you, one very small thing which I am enjoying a lot, that every morning when I am going for the walk and coming back to the home after doing yoga and other things, so one person is cleaning the vehicles in my society, and his name is Govind. So Govind will say to me, Uncle Namaste. But I will say to him, Govind Namaste. Even if he's not looking at me, even then I am saying to him, Govind Namaste. Because my perception of thought is that no, that is not only one person who is cleaning the vehicles, cars in my society, but when I am addressing him that Govind Namaste, so I directly relate this fellow with the Lord Krishna only. So the kind of enjoyment which I feel during this address, small conversation with them, that is giving me the energy for working for full day. My best wishes to the entire team. My best wishes to PR team, Himanshu ji, Secretary CBSE, decide and thinking that no, we have to go for this. I am sure that after the entire series of this uh, scheme is over, lot of changes would be observed, and we will expect more such kind of deliberations from Mr. Ganesh and his team also. Thank you and best wishes to each and every one of you.
Thank you so much for your very kind words and encouragement, Sayamji. I think your initiative to bring conversations like this to a national platform have been critical to mobilize the type of change that we're envisioning. So very grateful for your support and encouragement to make this happen.
Thank you.
I'm now going to invite our next keynote speaker. And before that, I was trying to play a short clip, but we're having a bit of a technical glitch. It was a scene from the movie Avengers Age of Ultron, where Tony Stark says, Jarvis, the AI, runs almost at the entire business and does most of the work besides anyone but the CEO. And there was such an interesting scene because in today's day and age, when we talk about the role of AI and what it's going to do to the future of work, what students have to do to be prepared, what kind of changes and expectations we can look out for, there isn't a very clear response to these questions. It's hypothetical, it's also speculated, and there's a lot of assumptions around this. And as students who need to start preparing for what's coming next, it would be really helpful if we had a clear idea or at least a direction and guideline on what to expect in the changing world of work. So to do that, I want to invite our next keynote speaker, Mr. Karthik Krishnan, who is the president of Purple Patch in New York. He has over 25 years of experience in media, healthcare, and education. He was formerly the global CEO of Britannica Group and has led the digital transformation and edtech innovations in that company. At RELX, Mr. Karthik advanced healthcare decision-making as the head of Global Clinical Solution. And as the adjunct professor at NYU Stern School of Business, he teaches media and business transformation. So Mr. Karthik, a very, very warm welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's a pleasure to connect with you all today. As I bring up my screen here, could you confirm that you can see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. We have shaped and inherited an exciting 21st century. For the first time in the history of humankind, we have actually connected the far corners of the world thanks to a technology called the internet. Today, information flows at breakneck speeds. Knowledge and skills have become free. Most of us have a device like this somewhere close to us, through which you can look up any topic that you're looking for, any information that you're looking for. Previously, when I was going to school, I had to go to a teacher's classroom, learn about these things, or I might have to go to a library, borrow a book, and wait for the library book to arrive so that I can actually get all this information. The world that we live in is super exciting. And thanks to things like social media today, we have given a voice to everybody, which was previously controlled by media and just the publishers. It's a very exciting world that we live in. At the same time, We're just getting started thanks to things like AI. What we call this world is VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's the world that we're shaping. In this particular world, for us to be successful, we have to convert volatility to vision, uncertainty to understanding, complexity to clarity, ambiguity to agility. To make those things happen in this world, we have to focus on developing what's called the growth mindsets and also develop resilience. Resilience is not about failing. It's not how hard you fall, it's how fast you get up that's going to matter in this particular world. So it's a little bit no surprise. This particular VUCA world is characterized by fast-paced changes. So if you look at the history of humankind, it took 3,000 generations for humans to go from discovering fire to inventing the light bulb, right? So those were 3,000 generations that passed on. Then, when you look at the late 19th century and early 20th century, there was a lot of new innovation that came in, both in terms of automobiles, airlines, telephones, and of course the foundation of the internet. But if you look at the early 21st century, even within a very short period of time, there are things like gene editing, smartphones, social media, Internet of Things, 3D printing, crypto, cybersecurity. All these things have mushroomed just over the last 20 years. New industries are popping left, right, and center. That's the world that we live in today. So in this context, it's no surprise when you look into predictions people have made. One of the predictions from the World Economic Forum is that 60% of the jobs of the future have not been developed yet. Think about it. In the 19th and the 20th centuries, we're talking about automobiles, airlines, telephony, and maybe the foundation of internet. Just based on the list of things that have happened in the last 20 years, which I talked about from gene editing to cybersecurity, you can see there are industries mushrooming every single day. So it's no surprise that, 60% of the jobs most of the 5-year-olds of today are going to have not been developed yet. And thanks to things like gig economy, entrepreneurialism, and influencer marketing and things like that, almost 50% of the people are likely to be self-employed, to have some form of income. So the question we got to ask ourselves is, how do we prepare ourselves for jobs that have not been created? And how do we be amazing entrepreneurs? So in this particular context, the traditional approaches to learning and career planning are less likely to be as effective. So a lot of the long-held beliefs that we've had are being turned on their head upside down. So let's take a look at one thing. A lot of times people believe that, getting a degree guarantees employment. It's true. Getting a degree puts you on the path to employment, and the goal is for people to go from education to employability to economic independence. But today's reality is that a degree is a starting point. You need to have skills and also an attitude that matches that for us to really create value in the workplace. So more and more, as you go through your whole education process, think about ways in which you can actually acquire new skills and practical experiences that will really help you take on real world problems and solve them. The second belief that we have is that traditional degrees are the sole path to expertise. So in a lot of cases, we talked about the internet itself opening the doors and the floodgates for information and learning. Today, there are things like micro-credentialing, massive open online courses that are available that really helps us to go online, learn about things that you're excited about. So the more we can take the time to explore learning opportunities and develop new skills, that goes a long way. The third belief that we have is that job stability is there in traditional professions. When you think about engineering, medicine, and all these kinds of traditional professions that we used to. But today, thanks to AI and automation, even these professions are getting impacted. If you think about a doctor, most of the doctors of the future are going to be working with some level of AI that's going to tell them, like, these are the things that are happening in the human body. And instead of going out there and assuming certain things, these technologies are going to provide you insights on what's happening and make the doctors much more effective. So technology is going to amplify human capabilities, and we have to start thinking about what's called augmented intelligence. So by bringing the humans and machines together, we are able to accomplish much more than we can do as humans alone. So when you think about this world that we've inherited, IQ alone is not going to be sufficient for us to be successful, because anything that can be looked up, memorized, is going to be available on a device like this sitting next to you. You can ask Siri, you can ask Alexa, and they're going to give you the answers. And thanks to something called ChatGPT, which most of you are aware, you don't even have to search anymore. We can ask these questions, and these kinds of technologies are going to curate all these information and provide to you in nuggets that are very useful. So success is going to depend on being able to use those insights to clearly solve real world problems. So in this world, I would say you have to start thinking about focusing on 3 key areas. One is learning skills. How to learn itself is going to be a key skill. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Second is literacy skills, which goes on to digital literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, and things like that. And last but not least, life skills. Do you have the social skills? Do you have the leadership skills that's going to take for you to lead organizations and have an impact in the role are becoming even more important. So what are the implications for students and job seekers in this market? It's a combination of IQ plus EQ and RQ, which is resilient quotient. That's key. And having all those things is what's going to help people be successful. So on that front, I would say there are 5 most important skills to think about. One is the skills development itself. The second question to ask ourselves is, are you a lifelong learner? The third one is, are you flexible to try different paths? Are you adaptable? The fourth area of focus is much more on networking and mentorship. Even as you're going through school and college experiences, how do you connect with people in this industry? How do you reach out to people who are out there in the professional network and ask them for guidance on how best to navigate that particular industry? Because the automobile industry of today is not the automobile industry that existed 10 years ago, thanks to EVs and other electronics and computer science technology coming into this whole thing. And the future of the automobile industry could be something where cars are self-driving machines, and one car could be talking to another car and actually figuring out which way to affect traffic, as opposed to us trying to use Google Maps or Waze to figure out where the traffic is stuck at that point. And last but not the least, the adaptability. As I said, the car of today is not going to be the car of tomorrow. So in that particular world, each of our jobs would really require us to understand what is the world that we're tooling for, and how do you use new research and technology to shape that particular world. This sounds a little bit daunting, but at the same time, there are simple mindset shifts and tools that can help us on that journey. So the first thought, as you go through the whole education process, you have to understand the subtle but significant difference between education and learning. Education is driven by a curriculum. It's passive. Learning, on the other hand, is curiosity, and it's a very active process. So as you go through your classes, ask yourself the question, why am I learning about centripetal force? Where am I going to apply it? Maybe if you're interested in Formula One racing, you will realize that these cars are able to go extremely fast, and that's based on tan theta equals v squared by rg, or centripetal force. So understanding how you take things in class and apply it to solve real world problems will really make this journey very interesting for all of us. Next one is, as you think about the difference between education and learning, the emphasis from an education perspective is mostly on grades and getting a certificate or a degree. But when you look at it from a learning perspective, you look at it and say, what skills did I acquire? What experiences have I acquired as I go through the process? So here, the whole goal from an activity perspective is not consumption and repetition, which is something that Ganesh mentioned in his opening statement as well. It's all about construction and creation. And then in terms of the mindset, the ability to have a growth mindset where your attitude determines how far you go, or the altitude, is so important. A person with a fixed mindset would look at failure as a limit on their abilities. However, somebody who's got a growth mindset is going to look at failure as an opportunity to learn. What did I do wrong here? What can I do to do better in this particular situation? So taking that kind of an orientation puts you away from a pessimistic mode to an optimistic mode. And ultimately, at that point, your effort and your attitude is going to determine what your abilities are. And then once you have that superpower inside you, we start believing that we can learn anything and do anything we want as long as we have the right mindset and orientation and the environment to help us learn. It was Alvin Toffler who said in the 1970s, right? I mean, he did not even predict, or a lot of his predictions about the 21st century were great, but even as a futurist, he could not predict what we're seeing today. He said the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but it will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Part of the reason is the problem that we're going to solve remains similar. It's a transportation problem. But how do you apply new technology and new research to solve those things are going to change over a period of time. So the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn is one of the most important skills for all of us to develop. As I think about, or as you think about your own careers, there are multiple ways you can actually go down this path. Ganesh gave a couple of examples of people going down a certain path as a dentist and finding out 5 years after getting that degree that that's something that they did not want to focus on. So in this particular case, there's a Japanese concept called ikigai, and it stands for the reason for being. It actually looks at 4 concentric circles and makes you ask 4 questions. What do you love, which is your passion? What are you good at, which is your strength? What does the world need? Because you're actually delivering on a mission for the world. And last but not the least, what can you get paid for? At the intersection of all these 4 circles is what you have, the ikigai. So as you go through your career journey, ask yourself those questions. What am I passionate about? What are my true strengths? What does the world need? And how can I make a good living? When you actually answer these questions and even put it on paper, it gives you a much better marker on where you need to go. Keep in mind, it's not like you have to choose one path today. I mean, these are things that you have to ask yourself on a constant basis as your career evolves. Asking these questions at every stage of your life, every 5 years, 10 years, is really going to help you understand where do you want to go as the next step and plan towards it. There are also other tools. This one's called the Holland Code. It has about 6 different areas, and it's called realistic. Are you investigative? Are you artistic? Are you social? Are you enterprising or conventional? So based on your traits, it actually suggests different professions that might be a good fit for you. Let's take a couple of examples here. For example, if you are practical, physical, hands-on, and tool-oriented, you're a realist. You're realistic. And your interest could be working with machines, animals, and plants. So your career could be an engineer, a mechanic, a farmer, or a carpenter. On the other end of the spectrum, you could also be artistic, which is creative, original, independent. In that case, if you're interested in art, music, writing, and self-expression, you can look at being an artist, a musician, a graphic designer. So by understanding these, what's your dominant personality type and what are your characteristics, it gives you a lens to say what kinds of careers might be the most appropriate ones for you. In closing, there are 3 key skills that you can walk away with: learning agility, initiative, and drive. If you have these in space, you will be in a position to succeed in this world, no matter what the world throws at you. I wish you all the very best as you work to unlock your potential and make a mark on the world.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karthik. I think it was really helpful to understand the trajectory of where the world of work started its evolution, what kind of changes to expect, and in the context of that, what mindset shifts students need to bring in, what skills they need to develop, and how they can focus on self-reflection to make informed choices and progress towards making a significant impact in the community while they shine and thrive in their own right. So thank you for sharing a really comprehensive and beautiful journey with your insights. And thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. We're now going to move to the next section of our learning for today. And as we do this, I want to request everybody to log into Mentimeter to fill out a poll. So I'm just going to be bringing up my screen in a moment. Please let me know if you can see my screen okay. So I'd like all of our participating students to go to www.menti.com and put in the code 49986228. So this is going to give us a chance to get to know you a little bit better and then tailor our session. And our speakers will be speaking to these points as well. But please log on to www.menti.com and put in the code 49986228. So while you're doing this and while you're filling the Menti out, I want to bring up another favorite quote from another Avengers movie that we absolutely love. So in Avengers Endgame, there's a dialogue that Thor's mother says to him, which is, everyone fails at who they are supposed to be. A true measure of success for a person, a hero, is how they succeed at being who they are. And I love this quote because while we were listening to Mr. Karthik share about all of the developments that are coming up in the VUCA world of work, and we also are active participants on social media today, and we can see how several people across different industries and sectors are thriving and succeeding. And there's often an unspoken pressure that gets built around the expectation of what you're supposed to do, how success is supposed to look, and what we're supposed to aspire towards. But at the core of the message from this quote and from what Mr. Karthik shared is, it's really, really important to build your success based on authentic reflection and decision making of who you are as a person. And that's really going to be the foundation that not only lends to longitudinal success for you as a student, but also helps you to be content and make positive contributions to the community that you are a part of. So to share a little bit more about this, to talk to us about how to build self-awareness and what techniques we can use to reflect meaningfully and learn more about ourselves and be empowered, I want to now invite Purva. So Purva is the Chief Operating Officer at ClayLab Education Foundation, and she leads the program operation, fundraising, and partnerships for the nonprofit organization. So they use mentorship and career readiness and to help build life skills for high school students from underserved backgrounds. And ClayLab currently works with students from across 7 states in India through virtual mentorship programs with a reach of over 3,000 students and their families, and it engages over 1,500 volunteers. So Purva and her team at ClayLab are envisioning a world where quality education is accessible to all children, regardless of their geographical or socioeconomic conditions. So I'm very excited to have you with us here, Purva, and over to you.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'll quickly pull up my slides. Thanks for the lovely introduction as well, Kritika. I've been in the sector for 6.5 years now. I started as a Teach for India alumni, and now like Kritika said, I lead operations at ClayLab Education Foundation. All of these years, I've worked with students just like yourself who are watching us right now, who are figuring out what to do next with their careers. What we do at ClayLab to solve for this is create meaningful mentorship experiences to make India's youth future ready. We have multiple modules, different things that we do with them, including helping them first build their own self-awareness, career awareness, what skills do they really need to be ready for the career that they're aspiring, and then also build an exposure and network that will help them get there. So I'm actually really happy that I was invited to speak over here, since you can see self-awareness is one of our core things. It's in fact one of the first things that we do when we start talking about career and future with any of our children. There's a very, very simple Venn diagram. We also saw Ikigai with Mr. Karthik's presentation just some minutes back. You will take some time to build and find your Ikigai. Most of us adults are still finding ours, but anything in that direction will start with some self-reflection. So that's what I want to share with you, that everything, the first step has to be you where you are, and trying to figure out that what do you like and what are you good at. Everything else will build up on that, on the basis of that, based on the research you do, based on the understanding that you build of the job market and what is expected of you outside. So a few things about this. A lot of us are asking us questions that are maybe not the right questions. When we think about our future, we're thinking of, okay, which college do I want to go to? We're thinking of, what does my father want me to do? We're thinking of which course has less hard work. I want a shortcut. I don't want to work too much. We're thinking of which college is my friend going to, which job is going to give me more money. All of these questions are good. They're even at some point important. They help us make some decisions, but they're not the starting point of this decision making. The starting point is really trying to understand yourself. And when you try to understand yourself, the questions look different. The questions are more about getting to know your own self. What do I like to do? What am I good at? What am I scared of? What is something that I would never do even if somebody pays me $1 million to do it? These are questions that will help you understand yourself better. With that, I want to quickly check in with Kritika if we have any responses on the Mentimeter that we've put up.
Yes, we do. So I'm just going to bring up my screen. Would it be okay if you
Yeah.
could stop your screen sharing for a moment? I'll just bring up mine. Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay, there you go. It's just coming right up. So we have students who have responded on what are the subjects at school that you feel fully engaged in.
Lovely. There's a yes, I can see it. I can see it now. Yeah. English is popping up really high. I used to be an English teacher, so I'm really happy about that. Also, my favorite subject, physics and math. Okay, geography. There's psychology as well. Physical education, yes, that has to be a favorite. What about the next question? What do you think you're good at? Which activity is one that you rarely get bored of doing? Okay, physical education, playing, thinking. Aren't we all forever thinking? Sketching, that is lovely. We have artists in the house. Swimming. I hope you're watching the Olympics. Audio visuals, visiting new places. Okay, there's travel. There's science.
I love how
Lovely.
subjects are also a part of this
Yeah.
mix. And activities that
And
people are.
loving these responses and keep them coming. I'm going to pull my slide back up, Kritika. These are questions you start with. This was just one or two examples of how you can start asking yourself that what do I really like, because this is a question only you can answer. For a lot of questions, you will go to career counselors, you will go to your seniors, you will go to your teachers, but these are some questions that you need to answer yourself for anybody else to be able to help you further. Nobody else can tell you what you can do unless you answer these things about yourself. So start with these two questions that we had. I'd love to share a worksheet also with you that we follow at Clay Lab to help students, figure out what are they good at, what they're not. We talk about what activities do you really like doing. We talk about what achievements make you feel proud. We're all achieving multiple things, but some things make us really happy and some things make us comparatively less happy. Let's talk about that. Which activities do you feel like you are better at than the others around you? Which activities or which values are important to you in life? Academically or non-academically, what are you good at? Which subjects do you like we discussed? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Which are areas where you feel really underconfident? These are just some examples of questions you can start asking yourself. And if you Google up, if you reach out to adults around you, they will help you find more of these questions on what you need to ask yourself before you can ask the bigger questions about career. All of these things, one thing they will help you do is identify your own strengths and your weaknesses, which is very, very important in making any decision regarding your career or your future plans. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about a structure called SWOT analysis. I learned it for the first time when I was in college. I never knew about SWOT analysis before that. It's a really exciting four-section structure where you identify your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the opportunities around you, where can you use your strengths, and what are some threats, what are some things that can become obstacles in your life. Doing this analysis was taught to me during my college time when I was working on an idea. How do I work on that idea? How do I turn it into a business? I never thought that I could do the SWOT analysis for my own self, for who Purva is, for who Purva can be, where does she want to reach, what are her strengths. And then over the many years that I've worked with children, we realized that we should be doing this on ourselves. And this is just one such activity that can be used for self reflection. I thought I'll share it with you. If we start ourselves by thinking of, hey, what are my strengths? What is it that I have to offer to the world? What is it that I'm really good at? What is something that I still need support on? That's my weakness. I still need to work more harder on this to figure out my best way forward. What is something that can help me really improve on my strength? What is something that can help me go one step higher in the things I'm good at? What are some things I'm scared of would be our threats? What are some things that I need support on, something that intimidates me, something that makes me unsure, that is going to be falling under your threats. So when we were teaching this to our kids at Clay Lab, we thought let's change it a little bit. And we made a Clay Lab version of things, not limiting it to reflection, but actually getting into action. So our students did not just, talk about what is my favorite sport. They also spoke about what am I going to do about it. So, for example, when my student identified that my favorite sport is basketball, what I'm going to do about it, this is my strength. I'm really good at it. I'm going to go and enroll in the school's basketball team. I know that my weakness is that I get distracted while studying using my phone. I'm going to switch it off while studying. So that's going to help me move past my weakness over here. When the student identified that I'm really good at maths and that can be an opportunity for me, they figured that I'm going to teach maths to other people, which will help me get better at the subject myself. Similarly, I want to show you one example of a student's submission when they made their own SWOT analysis. I love this part when the student said, opportunities, they said, I'm the concentrate on keeping the class quiet. I am in school, I am the captain of my house. I will motivate the students of my house to participate better in games and competitions. In terms of threats, the student wrote that I feel scared when I'm alone in the dark room. And the action they decided to take is always keep a torch or any gadget which can provide light, which is handy with you. So, just by doing these little reflection activities, you can figure out that all the answers you need, at least on the self reflection front, are with you. You don't need to be seeking them outside from other people around you. If you start your self reflection strong, if you have these answers with you very, very clear, then the process ahead of linking these strengths and weaknesses and these opportunities into what possible careers can be becomes even more easier. Thank you so much. I thought this would be a helpful strategy to start using as you are in your high school years, to start implementing right now and what career related changes you can make. I think the first step, like I said, is always self reflection. So please get started on that. And if you ever would like to reach out to me, I'm available on this email. Thank you so much for having me, Kritika, and all the best to everybody who joined in today.
So much, Purva. That was a beautiful demonstration of why self-awareness is so important, and really simple reflective questions that students can ask themselves right now, whether they're at school, whether they're watching this from home, and keep a quick note of this so that when they jump back into the process of thinking about what they could do, they have a great starting point right now. If there's any other insights that you would like to share as a closing thought or a remark, I'd welcome you to share that now before we invite our next speaker.
I've been hearing everything that everybody said, Mr. Ganesh and Karthik, and I was just thinking of where was I? Did this happen when I was at that age? Somebody coming in and giving us strategies? It did not happen. So I feel like we're already at a luckier spot where people are coming in and sharing their experiences. It only is about, do we start putting these things into action? So like you saw in the Clay Lab version that we made, we did the reflection, but we also put it into action. Somebody said as an activity that they will never get bored of doing, they said thinking. I was so happy to read that yes, we will never get bored of thinking, building our own khayali pulaus, but then what will really make a difference is putting that thinking into action. So that's the thought I want to leave you with. Keep on thinking and keep thinking about yourself. Also think about how you're going to put that thinking into practice in your lives. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Purva. I think you have sparked quite the reflective process already, because I went back to the Menti poll for a second, and I just saw that students had added a whole heap of other activities that they didn't feel like they could get bored with, including things like modeling a spacecraft, helping other people, and
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's so cool to see that that's something that is an activity that really inspires them. I just have one quick question to ask you before we let you go. In your experience of working with the students so far, did you see any distinct shifts and examples of some students who started out quite confused, unsure about what they could do or what their potential is? And did you see a distinct transformation through this reflective process?
Definitely, definitely. I feel like all of you listening to us, all of you students, you will often hear this quote that we use educators: unleashing your potential, discover your potential. But it's always about your potential. We're not the one building your potential, you have it already. We're just helping you discover it with these prompts, with these reflection activities. So we've had several examples at Clay Lab, students who would not even speak in a classroom, but with the right mentorship, with that safe space with their mentor who's not going to judge them, compare them for being a front bencher or a last bencher or a class topper or not. When they get that space and when they get to open up, when they get these kind of questions that, okay, it's really not about who am I in the classroom, it's about who am I as a person, they're really able to find themselves and make better choices. So there's a lot of scope, there's a lot of potential for all of you out there. No matter what the metrics will tell you about the jobs or not, if you really find yourself and who you are and who you want to be, you will find a way to make it work, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. That's very, very inspiring, because I think one of our endeavors here, the quote on my screen right now, it says, "I'm like a kid in Baskin Robbins with 31 flavor options. I don't know which one to choose. So long story short, I haven't figured out what to do." I think in Karthik's context setting session, as well as in the later parts of his presentation, we saw how much the world is evolving and how many opportunities there exist for students. Really, sometimes it's a problem of plenty. But at the very same time, we also do have a situation where so many students are not aware of all of the opportunities and options that exist and that are accessible to them. A survey that was conducted by the Times of India actually showed that students are only aware on average of 7 to 9 career paths. So I think one is we need to learn how to do structured exploration of what opportunities are available for us. And the second is we need to know how to then use the techniques that Purva had shared earlier to reflect and see which ones could be right for us. So to help us get some context on the evolving world of work, how to research careers in a fun, gamified, and exciting way, I want to invite our next speaker, Ms. Lucy Sattler. Lucy is the founder and CEO of Study Work Grow, which is dedicated to helping students discover careers that they love through engaging evidence-based resources. With a diverse background in military, air traffic control, and professional art, she began her education career assisting her father, a career advisor at Study Work and Grow. So Lucy developed the career development framework and the career clusters to aid schools and students in career navigation. And she's recognized as one of the most influential educators 2023 by The Educator. And she's passionate about integrating career management skills into school curriculums. So Lucy, a very, very warm welcome to you, and please take it away.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this fantastic session today. I'm just going to quickly share my slides, and I hope you can see them now. Great. So I'm Lucy, and thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm come from Australia, and I work with lots and lots of high schools right around the world. So we reach around 800,000 students each week. We have around 1,200 schools, and they're in 42 different countries, so right around the world. And I think one of the things that I've learned from doing all this work and working with all these amazing people in different countries is that even though we think things are different around the world, they're actually not. They're actually quite similar. And I see the same sort of patterns in the way we think about our careers and the options that we're going to take. And that doesn't matter if I'm talking to people in India or Australia or America or Canada or anywhere at all. They're all thinking the same sort of way. So at Study Work Grow, one of the things that we do is we think in clusters. And what I mean by that is that rather than thinking about individual jobs and really specific jobs like engineer or electrician or teacher or lawyer, we actually think about 6 different groups that can describe the way we work. And what this does is it helps us tell a story about our career. And I know a lot of our other speakers today have been talking about how you can reflect upon the things that you like and how you can look at your ikigai and the things that you want to do, your passion and your purpose, to tell this real story about what you want your career to be. And that's where the clusters come in, is because they can help you find some language to tell your story about what you want your career to look like. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the clusters and how they work. I'm going to explain each one, but then the real activity today is not so much in what I'm going to tell you, it's in that self-reflection. So whether you're using the SWOT analysis that was just spoken about before, or if you want to use some other type of reflection method, I want you to go away at the end of this session and to think about these clusters and to think about which one you might be in, or ones you might be in, and what that might mean. So if you're a guardian, what does that mean for you and for the decisions that you want to make about your career? So we have 6 different career clusters. The first group are the makers, and these are people who love getting hands-on. So they like using equipment, they like operating machinery, they might like driving things or flying planes, and they like to be following instructions and procedures and really working with equipment. And that means that they're such a vital part of our society, and you're going to find makers in every different workplace around the world. The next group are informers, and these are people who know a lot about something. So they usually have quite a large knowledge base about one particular thing. And that might mean that they are an accountant and they know a lot about managing money and managing finance. And then they use that knowledge to help other people. But sometimes informers we also include people who, for example, teach people how to skydive in the informers category. We include teachers and librarians, lawyers, all sorts of people that use what they know to help other people. We include them in the informers. The next group are the guardians, and guardians are really concerned about health and well-being. So obviously things like people like doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, they all fit within the guardians. But we also call guardians people who, for example, are beauty therapists or hairdressers, security people, so police, ambulance services, military, they all fit under the guardians, and people who help us stay safe at work. So occupational health and safety people, they all fit within the guardians as well. The next group are the coordinators. And the coordinators are people who manage everything. So they do administration, they manage the schedules, they plan, they manage teams. They just take care of all of those management kinds of things that we don't often think about that much. We sort of assume that they happen by magic a lot of the time, but they'll be done by coordinators. Now we have the linkers. The linkers are people who bring us together. So what they can do is they know a lot about something, and then they can help use that knowledge to support people to find the things or the support or the products or the services that they need. So linkers might be salespeople. They might also be enrollments officers in a school, so welcoming new families. They might be at an information centre or working in tourism, for example. They're in all sorts of places just helping us connect with the things that we need. And the last cluster are the innovators. And these are our designers, our engineers, our artists. These people use technology and they use their creativity to find solutions to problems. So those are our 6 clusters, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more about how we got to them. So within each of the 6 clusters, we know that they're made up of different things. They are brought together by the tasks that people do. So within each cluster, people in that cluster will do similar tasks. The guardians, for example, are doing tasks that are probably going to be hands-on, and they're helping us stay healthy. People within each cluster also share a skill set, and I'm talking about technical skills, so whether that's designing a dress or writing a piece of code, those are technical skills, but also some of those human 21st century skills that we've talked about earlier today as well. So things like communication and adaptability, those skills are particular to each cluster as well. Within each cluster, we also find that people work in the same sort of places. So that might be that they work in an office or in an industrial setting, but also they tend to work in the same sort of ways, whether they traveled for work or whether they work shifts. All of those things are particular to each cluster. And within a cluster, you're also going to find people who share the same sort of outcomes. So they want to achieve the same things from their work. And that's really important when we talk about what we value or our passion, our purpose. Within each cluster, you're going to find that most people have a bit of a shared sense of purpose. So this can all get a bit complicated, and I find that the best way to get our heads around how the clusters work is to look at an example, because what we know is that we need every cluster in every workplace, and that doesn't matter where you are, you're going to need somebody to do those jobs, those activities from each cluster in every workplace. So if we think of a school, which is a pretty common and familiar setting for you, when we think of the people who work in a school, the first people we would normally think of would probably be the teachers. Sometimes we might think about the librarians as well. We might think about the people who work in the administration offices, so the people who are managing the front desk, who welcomers, who answer the phones. And then we also maybe sometimes would think about the enrolments officer, and they would probably be the person that you met when you joined the school, who welcomed you to the school for the first time. But within a school, there's actually a whole lot of people who work in each different cluster, and the school needs all of those people to stay running. So we need people in the IT department to manage the Wi-Fi and keep all of the computers connected. We need guardians who are going to help us if we fall sick while we're at school. And we need innovators to work as engineers to design our buildings or to write our curriculum. And what we know is that the clusters actually give us a place to start. So if you know what cluster you're in and you know what you're interested in, you can put the two of those things together, and then you have a career idea, which gives you somewhere to start the rest of this conversation, somewhere to start the rest of your thinking process and your reflection piece. So that's how they go together. And I thought I'd finish by showing you the cluster wheel. What this shows is that within each cluster, not everybody does the same thing. So we have a whole stack of different subclusters within each cluster, and it shows us that we can move around, we can change and specialize even within each cluster. So it's worth taking some time to really reflect on which cluster might be right for you, and then use that to be part of your career story, use it to inform your decision making, and think about where you want to go next. So thank you. That's I'm just going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Lucy. That was such an exciting way to reimagine how we can look at career clusters and career exploration. In fact, the thing that I was so curious about is we had looked in when Karthik's presentation about the Holland Code and looking at career clusters as realists, innovators, artists, etc. And this was a new and different way of looking at career exploration that made it quite fun and really relatable. I did want to ask and invite you to share, if you would like, an example of an activity that students could do that could help them reflect on, let's say, the career cluster that they find the most alignment with. If you do have some material around that, we'd love to see it, to just get students thinking about, okay, am I a guardian? Or what would help me to know if I'm a guardian or not a guardian? That would be really exciting to see. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
What I actually find is that when we ask young people to think about which cluster that they're in, they tend to know. So we have asked about 30,000 young people now which cluster they're in, and they know pretty quickly and pretty early which cluster suits them. And I think it comes back to that SWOT analysis, self-reflection piece, is in whatever that cluster resonates with you is what counts. We do have a cluster quiz, so lots of students have done that through their school, but it has to be accessed through the school environment. And so it might be that your school asks you to do the cluster quiz at some point, in which case you'll know what I'm talking about, but you don't have to do the quiz to think about which cluster you might want to be in. And we do have a website. So if you search for the career clusters, you can find us on Google, and then you can read a little bit more and learn about which clusters might suit you.
Superb. I think that's really, really helpful. And is there there any resources that you would recommend students to look up, like once they get an indication of, let's say, how career clusters are organized and the structure of careers within it? Do you have any recommendations for resources they could look up to read more about it, or authentic sources of information that could give like verified and credible sources of detail and depth on these topics?
Yeah, I can share. I'll put in the chat the link to the career clusters, which has got more information about each of them. The other thing I would suggest is I know that there might be some parents on this chat, but if you're a student and if you're wanting to have a conversation about what you do after school with your parents, show them the clusters and tell them which cluster you feel that you belong in, and ask them to think about what those clusters mean for their own careers, because what we find is that when we bring parents into the conversation and use the clusters as a framework, it can actually help change your parents' mind, open them up a little bit, stop them from thinking about maybe what traditional jobs they might want you to go in, and you can use that to start a different conversation. So like I said, I'll pop that into the YouTube live chat so that anyone can go and find out more about the clusters if they like, but you can find them if you Google them as well.
I think that would be super helpful, because one of the things we're trying to talk to students about when they're doing their research is how do you want to make sure that you're authenticating these sources of information. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your insights on how students can look at the world of work through this lens, begin their research and exploration process, and then tie it back into their own self-reflection to find their fit. So very grateful for your time and your contribution here today, Lucy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, I'm now excited to invite our next speaker for the day. And just before I bring her on, we have another exciting Menti poll for all of you to participate in. So I just want to make sure that I love the insights that you all had shared the first time around. So please make sure to keep it coming. This is the poll that we would like for you to participate in. Please go to www.menti.com and use the code 19043697. So please go to the Menti code, menti.com, and go to 19043697. I'm also just going to bring up my screen on the other section, just a moment. Yeah, so like I said, please go to menti.com and start filling out the poll on this section. I also want to share a quick quote before I invite our next speaker. So this is from another famous pop culture reference, Lord of the Rings, where it says, some believe that it's only great power that can hold evil in check, but that's not what I found. I found that it's small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay, simple acts of kindness and love. So while this is in the context of a fictitious superhero movie and them defeating sort of a supervillain, I think the idea that collective contribution is what makes significant differences in the world is a very, very important theme to take away from here. Because as you are choosing whatever career path you're going to take, right, that's aligned with your personal strengths, your interests, your values, you're also making choices that are going to have potential impact on the functioning of your community, your society, even how policies and economies are shaped. And while these are in some cases small incremental actions and in other cases large, significant, visible impact, everybody's playing an important role. So you are not just choosing a career, but you're choosing how you're going to contribute to creating a shift in this world. So with that, I actually want to invite somebody who is currently an incredibly successful professional, but started out much like yourselves as a CBSE student in a CBSE school in the Middle East. And she's going to share her journey to show us how reflective and intuitive choices that are aligned with the self and the need of the world, as we saw in the Ikigai model, can ensure that we make positive social impact through our decision making. So I want to invite Tanvi Ratna, and Tanvi is a policy advisor specialized in digital currency and emerging technology. She's worked for leading global decision makers in several ministries and state governments, handling policy design, execution, and liaison in live complex policy environments. Her analysis have been featured in leading media houses such as CNBC, BBC, Foreign Policy, Al Jazeera, Cointelegraph, and many more. And she holds a Bachelor in Engineering from Georgia Tech and a Master's in Public Policy from Georgetown University. So Tanvi, a very, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for being with us, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Kritika. It's an honor to be here. I was just like the students here. I was once a CBSE student, and I think I, will be sharing a little bit more about my life journey and the career choices that I made and what I do today. But I very much feel that this is a very wonderful session to be organizing in today's day and age. We did not have this when we were CBSE students, so I think hats off to CBSE and IC3 and all the volunteers who made this possible. So without further ado, I'll just dive into a little visual sort of journey of mine and the kind of work we've done, just so you get context on what it is that I do, and then I'll be talking about my learnings from it. I'll also be asking some questions to you in terms of how you guys are thinking about the future. And Kritika, I've shared this slide and ordering of questions with you on email, so maybe we can just order the questions along. So I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, Tanvi, it's coming up. It's coming.
Okay, wonderful. So this is me on a slide since right after I finished my school education, I joined an engineering program. I was at Georgia Tech, which is a good top 3 engineering school in the US, and I there was basically spent some time thinking of my major. I was a biomedical engineering student first, and after I dabbled in it, I found questions of mathematics, modeling much more interesting. So I moved into systems engineering, where I did a lot of statistics, operational research, those kind of topics. And in my second year at Georgia Tech, I did a class on policy. And, engineering schools in the US ask you to do humanities. And so I did this class on international affairs, and I knew sort of on my first day that this is what I want to do. And it was a very big career change because my family also, there's nobody linked to government or policy. It was not a career I knew much about. I was very sure I wanted to do it. And at that point, it was not a very popular career. I, of course, faced some opposition from my family. And so at that point, I did not switch, right? So you must take risks in your career, but maybe at every point you can't do it, right? So I was too young at that point. But I did a second degree while I was in college, right? So whatever was in my hands, I did that. I did a second degree in policy, a minor degree, and I completed my engineering. And after that, I worked for some time, and I then finally decided to take the full plunge in policy, right? And this was a very, I would say, a high risk decision, because at that point, there was really not much that went on in this field. I think these days policy is much more established as a career choice. But I got into it quite early, and I was very sure I wanted to do this, right? So I entered this field. I, applied for masters to my dream school was Georgetown University, which was in Washington. It was where a lot of heads of states have gone to school. Bill Clinton had gone to school there, and it was very central to policy in the US. And so I was very keen to go there. And I'm happy to share that dream did come true. I did make it, and there were hiccups along the way with scholarships and things like that, which also, if you keep at it, you do find ways around things. And so I made it to policy school. And then after policy school, I think for me, the VUCA world sort of started very early, because, I even before when things were very stable, I made a very unorthodox career choice, and there wasn't really a linear path to what I wanted to do, because I was not giving the UPSC exam. I had sort of taken this graduate school route. And so there was a lot of, you can say, pressure in a way to figure out, how you make that journey, right? So I'll cover some of those stories later, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I'll just skim through how my journey panned out after this period. So after policy school, in policy school, I'd basically taken a lot of I would say I had to basically create a lot of different opportunities, different internships. There's a lot of ways that kids these days are quite like they know very well how to do these things, whether it's via LinkedIn or just approaching senior people and creating some value for the work you can do and then converting that into real opportunities. So I had to do a lot of those things in college, and I had some very interesting experiences. I was actually Minister Jaishankar's first intern when he was the ambassador to China. This was a long time ago, and I worked in his division of the MEA, the East Asia division. I also got to work with Mr. Nitish Kumar, who was Chief Minister of Bihar at that time. He was doing a lot in innovation policy in the state. And my career pretty much started in innovation policy and tech policy. And once I finished my graduate school, I landed a first job on Capitol Hill, and I got to work in foreign affairs in the US government side. And this was a very different experience for me. I got to think and look at the world in a very different way. And I got to work on some very pivotal things that were happening that time in the world: the Afghan war, the Trans Pacific Partnership, which was like a free trade agreement that the US was negotiating with ASEAN countries. And I think it gave me a very different perspective on the world, right? And around the same time, I was also very much called back to do something for India and live and work in India. And so this was then the second point at which I had to make a very risky decision. And I think the first one, as I said, was when I left engineering for policy, without really a backing or so behind me, right? This in a similar vein, I then decided to leave the US. Even though my career was doing quite well, I decided to leave the US and I moved back to India. And in 2013, I got a chance to work with the Prime Minister on his campaign of 2013-14, and I was part of the team that worked on Chai Pe Charcha. So I got to work with someone called Prashant Kishore. If you've heard of him, he basically set up something called IPAC. It's now called IPAC, but it used to be called CAG. So I was one of the co-founders of that group. And we got to work for that year on very amazing things across India, on big campaigns like Chai Pe Charcha and things like that. And I think that added a whole layer of understanding to the world that I would not have had when I was abroad. And after that, I moved to Ernst & Young in India, which is a consulting firm some of you might know about. But I wanted very much to work on more technical policy problems. And I got to work on the India stack. So the what as the Aadhaar UPI system, the DigiLocker, there are around 29 different India stack DPIs. I got to work on building some of these, and eventually I became a blockchain leader for Ernst & Young, and then I stepped down and set up this body, right? And I would say like that was again a very risky decision. It's like stepping down and setting up your own company, becoming an entrepreneur, right? So that was my journey in a nutshell, and I'll talk about my learnings on specific aspects in a little bit. In terms of what we've been able to do with what I've set up, I can just give you a quick gist in case that because it's not a field that many people know about. But when I got into blockchain and digital currencies, I got some exposure pretty much around the world on how governments were working on regulation. A lot of my learning on this very futuristic topic is very hands-on. And if you've seen my career, my whole immersion in the problems I take up is very hands-on. And I think that's something that I give as a takeaway to everyone watching this: is you have to be like jump right in, right? You have to be very immersed in the field that you take up, or the problem that you want to solve, right? I think I got to do that in this space of cryptocurrency. And when I got to work across these governments and then came back to India, and nobody was doing what needed to be done, right, in the policy space. And so I set up this body as a research institution. So we are essentially what you call a policy think tank, and this may not be a career that many of you know about, but it is, I think, going to be increasingly a very important one in the future. But we are a tech policy think tank. Our role is to work on exactly these questions of the future of the VUCA world from a governance perspective. So how do governments deal with regulation and governance and these kind of shifts, right? So how do you regulate something like cryptocurrency? How do you regulate something like AI? How do you guarantee safety in something that's changing so fast, right? Which needs a lot of innovation. So we are, as a body, focused on that. We work across very much the full spectrum of what you call VUCA technologies. So AI, crypto, CBDCs, which are your digital rupee, digital currencies, which central banks are issuing, quantum technology, and DPIs, which are your digital public infrastructure, like the India stack. So we work on these things. We started as a small team in India, but we were able to create a lot of global traction for the research we did with a lot of different regulators, central banks. And just a quick glimpse of things we've done. I think we got traction from global media. We have been active on AI regulation, and I think AI is a topic we'll focus a bit on. I think there's been a lot of questions on AI, but we're working on, the Indian government. Many governments have come together to form something called 3P AI, where they're looking very closely at questions of AI regulation. So we've been working there. We've been presenting some frameworks there. We also, as a small team in India, got to work at a global level on this crypto regulation question. And last year, the G20 actually incorporated our research into their regulations, and now around 98 countries around the world are going to implement this regulation, which is a very big thing for us. Just a CBSE student, just somebody who was in India, but now being able to create this impact on a global stage. We've also been invited by the EU Parliament, EU Commission, when they were framing their AI Act, got to participate in deliberations there. We've also done a lot of trainings for our government. I think the discussions on learning strategies were very excellent today. And I think it's something that you are looking at your level, the students, but a lot of different levels of society are looking at training and constant learning. And I think policymakers are not behind that either. And so we've been working with a lot of different agencies in the Indian government. We've also helped state governments set up new frameworks of what we call regulatory sandboxes on Web3. We had the Telangana government with their Web3 sandbox. So those are just to help you understand, what I've done and some snippets from my journey. And I just want to, synthesize possibly my learnings into 3 different key takeaways that I would have for you in terms of how you can find your path in this VUCA world. And I think the Ikigai framework is a wonderful one, but to really find your Ikigai and then to actually execute it is what the skills that I'm going to talk about now, right? Because I think I found my Ikigai early, but to execute it, to bring it to life, has taken a very different set of skills, right? And so my first message to you is to be very curious about the world, right? So don't just be very focused on your life, your friends, your limited things that you do in a day, right? Be very curious about the world, be very engaged in the world, go outside your comfort zone and think about the questions that the world is grappling with, right? So there are a lot of, there's a lot of content around that, like what policymakers are grappling with, what decision makers are grappling with, what heads of businesses are grappling with. If you focus on those things and that information, you will get some hints as to where value will be created in the world in the future, right? Because as the panelists already laid out very well, your career is dependent very much on the value you create in the world, right? And what we have today as predetermined career paths, they may not necessarily be the places where there will be careers tomorrow, right? So how do you think about where there will be problems tomorrow? Look at the kind of problems that the world is grappling with, right? That could be even social things like hunger, inclusion. It could be this geopolitics and displacement of so many people. These are all problems that will be relevant, whether it's now or many years ahead, right? So there, I want to give you an example of something that we are looking at, for example, with AI, right? There's a question of things that we work on, which maybe you don't think about in general days, right? So this is a very well-known AI problem. It's called the trolley problem. So you've designed an AI system which is going to autonomously drive cars. And you have to program this AI to decide what to do in situations like this. The track A that the AI takes, this is where the car will follow the traffic rules, but it will hit three people. There are three people standing there, but the AI is going to follow the traffic rules. It's going to hit these people, right? In option B, there are some stop signs. There are some road breakers there. So you are going to break the rules, but there's one person there, right? So how do you program a system like this, right? How do you think the AI should decide, like, what is the right action, right? Is it to follow the rules and three people die, or do you break the rules and there's one person, right? So what do you think, right? And I have my first question for you, which is sort of linked to this, but it's on where the future would go. And Kritika, if you have a Menti poll, if you can flash this question, who do you think should be responsible if an AI system makes a mistake? Is it the people who created it? Is it the government who's regulating it? Or is it the people who are using it?
Okay, Tanvi, I'm just going to bring the
I can stop sharing.
Sure. Okay, so for the students who are getting on to Mentimeter, just please make sure to log on to www.menti.com and go to the code 19043697. And I can see a couple of students have already started responding.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I have another question for them right after this.
Awesome. Tanvi, are you able to see the screen with the results?
I see the question. Okay. So there are two people who think it's the people who created should be responsible. Yes, a lot of people think this in government as well. And then the two say the government who's regulating it should be responsible. Okay, there are three people now who feel the people using it are responsible. Okay, very interesting. Keep your polls coming, because this is what you're engaging in right now. This is going to be the kind of questions that will come up in the future, right? So your value system, your beliefs around these things really matter, right? And then I have a next question, Kritika. Should we?
Tanvi, sorry,
just
before I move on to the next question, even on the YouTube chat, I can see a lot of students are responding to say that it's the people who created it. So I've got a couple of people who have said the created it response on the YouTube chat. So you've got a mix here.
That's very interesting. And if you see, I mean, that's a big debate going on at the highest levels of society today, right? So all the top decision makers right now, if you know, the EU passed this AI Act, right? One of the biggest questions was this: who is responsible, right? If it's an algorithm, like who is responsible for it, right? So great, you just engaged in a global question right now. So my next question to you, should we bring that up, Kritika? We can wait a minute if you suggest.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to let a couple of more students respond if you'd like to capture that, or we can go to the next question as well. We have a few students who have engaged over there.
Yeah, sure. So the next question is on these future issues.
Please let me know which question you want me to bring up.
Yeah, so how concerned are each of you on the following issues regarding the future, right? Employability and job market, digital divide.
Okay, it's just coming right up. Give me
Wait. Yes. Oh, great. Okay, a lot of people have already voted. So this again is, these are what I've thrown to you here. These are dimensions of what I said, the questions that the world is worried about. These are some of those questions, right? So when we enter this age of AI and exponential growth, what will happen across each of these dimensions, right? So employability and job market, I think that's what the session is tailored around. And as I said, you want to also think about other questions in the world, right? So there's also risk that digital divides will expand. And there'll be a lot of people who are not on the internet, who are not digital, who will have no role in that future society, right? So what about them? Like, how are they going to be carried through, right? And then ethical and responsible use, right? How will AI be used, in what sectors, in what ways? Will it work with humans, will it not, right? And then the environmental impact, right? Like, is this going to make the world more fragile from a climate perspective? So I can see overwhelmingly here there's a clear winner in terms of employability and job market. Okay, that's great. So let me go back to my learnings on the VUCA world. So let me, I can share my screen once you suggest.
Sure, Tanvi, go for it.
Okay. The second takeaway that I will have for you, because as it was already laid out by the previous panelists, that you have to sort of, the old ways may not work, right? So my tip to you is to be as aligned to the future as possible. And what does that mean, right? What you read about, what you track, what issues you track, what do you think about? Like, try to go as close to the people who are working on the frontiers, right? So what are the problems they are worried about, right? What are the issues they are engaging in? And that will give you a clue about the kinds of places there will be careers in, there will be jobs in, right? And here again, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to think about how you learn and how you, understand issues. So the first one is going to be on which online platforms you use to learn about AI or futuristic topics. I can stop sharing again, Kritika, if you want to bring that up on the screen.
Yeah, it's come back up. So a couple of students have already responded, but we can invite more people to share.
Okay, so the first one would be on what platforms they use, what online platforms they already use, which are YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. What are things they use?
Okay, let's come right up.
Okay, that's great. So YouTube is, we all know, it's the number one platform on for Gen Zs. So it's no surprise. That's the first one. Instagram, okay. Okay, lots of people honestly also saying that they're not looking at the future, and I think you want to change that, as quickly as you can. Twitter, Instagram. Okay, more thumbs up for YouTube. Coursera. Okay. Can we tell how many people are voting for what?
On this, I'm unfortunately not able to tell, but we can see it in the other interfaces. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, lots of people using Coursera, Udemy.
I think as you're probing them to reflect, the I don't learn is going to the bottom of the list, and
Yeah.
people are bringing up.
Okay, no, it's coming back now. It's coming back. Because that's true. Like a lot of people may not be engaged, right? And I think this is something we survey a lot of college students on the regular, and I think we see this often that they're very focused on what they are learning right now. They're not very focused on what is coming ahead, right? And I would really encourage you guys, like that's a core skill you want to build, the one of looking ahead, right? I think, yeah, the question after this, Kritika, is really going to be in terms of what kind of resources they think will help them, right, in learning, whether it's mentorship, whether it's practical projects, whether it's reading blogs. So we can go to that once you. It's
Just
a different, yeah. Okay, guys. So this is the question. What do you think can actually help you learn, right, in this new world, in this new kind of environment where maybe what you're learning today becomes obsolete in some time, or like an AI does it in the future, like, and you have to, or you, there's so many new things that you simply cannot just rely on an existing curriculum. So how do you learn about new things, and what do you think are the best ways to learn? Is it mentors, and you build a mentor pool for yourself? A lot of people have done that as a very successful strategy, right? And I would highly encourage, if that's something you want to do for your life, for your career, and if you're trying to make a different path, I think you should definitely explore like building your mentors. Okay. This is quite interesting. Okay. Practical projects. And I think here it's your internships. I think a lot of people are going out there doing a lot of internships these days. And I think there's, a lot of people who also intern with us in our organization. They may be from very different backgrounds. Like there was recently an economics student who interned with us on purely technical work, just because he wanted to learn about AI. And I think that's a wonderful way. But then it's also not continuous, right? So how do you continuously learn? How do you continuously update? Right? And then guest lectures, yes, a lot of people seem to find that useful, like the one we're doing now, and other ones you'll be doing. And then blogs and papers, okay, does not seem like a very popular option. All right. Okay. So I think learning by doing seems to be the winner here. All right. And then the final question, right, was in if there's a platform for really learning about AI, or like it's not just educational, but it's something that's real time, where you're plugged into debates that are happening everywhere. You're plugged into issues that, are being discussed at the very sort of top level of decision makers. And you have a place like that, right? Like how much would you use it? Why would you use it? Would love to hear from you guys on this.
Tanvi, is my screen visible with the responses?
Yes.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah. This is quite interesting, right, Ritika? Like people, definitely the learning behaviors have changed a lot compared to when I think we were in school. I see a lot of differences.
Yeah, I can see more responses coming in towards like avid interest, as well as they're thinking about how it would connect to their studies. Okay, I can see that one's picking up more right now.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
This is really nice. It's so exciting to see. And thank you for taking them through these series of questions. I think it's really getting them to probe deeper about what is the current level of awareness, initiative to learn, as well as how actively they would engage with learning resources that are provided to them as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I can talk about the key skills and conclude on those skills that I've felt the most useful for the future. So I'm happy to just go back to that last slide. Yeah. Yeah, so the final takeaway, I think, from my perspective, in terms of what, and I'm somebody who's working in that field and seeing all the time what skills get obsolete, in the next 3 months, 6 months. But there's some skills I think will never go obsolete, and AI is not at a level where it can perform a lot of things to the level of sophistication that a human brain can. And can AI ever really learn both sensory, language, cognitive kind of things? I mean, we have to see, right? So I mean, I would narrow it down to these few skills, and I think these have helped me a lot in my own journey. The first is adaptability and resilience, right? And resilience, I think, is going to be by far one of the most important skills if you want a future proof career, right? Because if you're building a future proof career, you will constantly work with the unknown, right? And that's not a very comfortable kind of work, all right, if you're always working with unknown questions and things. So when I say resilience, it's a lot of different aspects. So how quickly you can adapt to change, right? How quickly, like we were discussing before, you can stay informed about what's changing, what's coming, how well you can anticipate like what impacts these changes are going to have, right? What is your emotional EQ? And this one is through the roof going to be very important. It's so important that I've made it a separate point, with point number D. I'll talk about that. And taking risks. So if you see in my own career, I had to take big risks at multiple points, right? But I think what it did is it allowed me to now stay in a place where I'm aligned, or my career is aligned to a direction in which the world is going, right? So if you are in your comfort zone and if you're following like well trodden paths, it's very likely that you will not be able to stay ahead of the curve. And that's the most important skill you need to build, is to be able to stay ahead of the curve. For that, you need to take risks. The second thing, and I think this will remain very, very important no matter how much AI comes in the world, is to build very sharp critical thinking, right? So even people who will succeed with AI, they will know how to use AI. They'll know for what problem to use AI and to use what kind of AI. Like, is it an LLM? Is it an agent? Is it a different kind of model? What kind of a learning model can make me do this? If I can build my own GPT, like what tasks do I build it for, right? Like, so this level of critical thinking, being able to understand systems, how things work together, what I need to do where to create this impact, that level of critical thinking, I can promise you, is going to take a while for AI systems to reach. And I think that's something that as a human being, you're gifted with a very sophisticated machinery for, right? So be very focused on critical thinking, problem solving skills, right? And many of these futuristic problems, they will require very first principles thinking, right? And I think first principles is something that Elon Musk has really popularized. But I think a lot of you might already know what that is. But it's about looking at things from a not a preconceived lens, right? So can you boil down a problem to the most fundamental truths that you know, right? And he actually has a talk on it. I think it's very useful. I'm happy to maybe share it later also with Kritika. But this is a skill you really want to build, right? The third thing is your digital literacy, and I think this is already quite high. India is already one of the most digitized, youngest nation in the world, and I'm sure a lot of you're already right now on a digital webinar with me. You're using these tools, but you want to focus a lot on getting acquainted with AI tools, right? So there's a very big difference between Web 2 tools, like things we've used like Google search and things like that, and there's a very big difference in AI tools, and it's not just Chat GPT, right? And I think you might have heard of this world of AI agents, which is like coming at us very fast, where you have basically agentic flows, where you have agents which do different tasks for you, like, go shop for my groceries on these sites, right? And then a bot can go and do all those things, right? You want to be an early adopter of new tools, right? It will help you a lot in staying ahead of the curve, right? So be an early adopter, use AI tools, different tools for different things. Like there are particular tools that are good for research, some are very good for writing. This chat GPT is like more basic, it's more for general purpose editing or different kind of functions, right? But they also specialize AI tools. Then point D, as I said, emotional intelligence. It's so important that I had to take it out as a separate point. The future is not a very, it may not just be a very easy, safe kind of place, right? There's going to be a lot of unknowns, there's going to be a lot of risks, there's going to be a lot of disturbances, right? And I think how much you're able to keep yourself centered through all of that is very important. And I know we say things like meditation and stuff are things that older people do, but I think it has been for me one of the most important things. Like I started meditating when I was 15 years old, right? And I can say that, in terms of soft skills, that's probably the one thing that's helped me the most, right? Is how quickly you're able to kind of find your stability, right? Find your center, find your footing, right? It's not going to come from external world, right? External world is getting more and more chaotic. So I think emotional intelligence is very important. And then the last one, which is linked to, the theme of my entire work, which is about ethical awareness, because I think we are becoming a very interconnected world, right? And so that's like a lot of different value systems that you have to navigate, right? Even whatever career you make, it's likely that you're not just going to work with people in India. You're probably going to work across boundaries. The careers that will survive are going to be more global careers, right? So how much do you understand, ethical questions, the implications of actions, like, if you make decisions in a certain way, how it's perceived, what second, third order effects it has. I think more awareness of these things will make you a very, I think, a sought after sort of a professional, right, in the future. So that's my key takeaways for all of you. And if you want to stay connected, I'm happy to be available for that. I'm pretty active on Twitter. You can always find me in Planvi Ratna on Twitter. Or you can also email us for if you want to do internships and things like that. I can just share that quickly, flash it on the screen. And yeah, I can conclude there, Kritika, with my talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanvi. I think that was really inspiring to see the trajectory of your journey, the kind of global impact that you've been creating, and also the very invaluable insights that you've left the students thinking about in terms of what really both intuitive and initiative-driven steps that they need to take to be making mindful choices that are going to create the shifts that they're going to create in the world. And thank you so much for also building a lot of this collaboratively with the student voice and engaging them throughout. I think this is the exact kind of thing that's going to promote a sense of agency, social responsibility, and mindful decision making on a day-to-day basis, as well as what they're going to choose to do when they enter the workforce. So thank you so much for setting the stage with that.
You're most welcome, and thank you, Kritika. This was a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanvi. So as we conclude with our sessions today, I just want to leave all of the students watching here with one really important thought. you are going to be, your role is much larger than you can see. And each of the speakers have shown us demonstratively how much it's important to know yourself as the first step to be making these choices. So I want to leave you all with a quick activity that you can do in your spare time at home. And because ChatGPT is the open source AI that's most easily available, I'm going to show you a quick activity, and then I'm going to invite Purva right after that to conclude with something quite intuitive and exciting and inspiring as well. So for the students, here are 5 questions I want you all to write down and keep with you to do as a ChatGPT exercise to learn more about yourself and discover what careers would be right for you, right? So I'm just going to bring up my screen. Give me a moment. Okay. So I want you all to think about these 5 things, right? In terms of what can help you learn more about yourself. One is, what are you naturally good at, right? What are you naturally good at? So this is what your aptitude is. Instead of sometimes when we're talking about psychometric testing and discovering yourself, it can be so layered and the terms are used very interchangeably, but I hope that this exercise helps to simplify it a little bit. So the first is, what are you naturally good at? Whether it's a subject, activities that you take up, tasks that you do. The second is, what do you really care about? What do you feel most passionately about? This could be a problem that you want to solve. This could be something that's very close to your heart and is really important to you and guides your day-to-day actions. These are your core values, and these are very, very critical in career decision making. What do you feel curious about? What do you want to explore or learn about in your spare time? That's your interest. And how would your friends describe your personal qualities? How would your friends describe your characteristics? Like, what are some adjectives or descriptive words that your friends and family would use to talk about you, right? And these are your personal qualities or personality type. And lastly, what are some things you know how to do well and you can learn how to do? So you might not be an expert at it, and it's not that you're bad at it, but you know how to do it and you know how to approach it. So these are some foundational skills that we have, right? These are good introductory questions to ask ourselves when we want to know more about what makes us unique in who we are as a person. And as we're doing this exercise, sometimes it could be challenging to find the right vocabulary to do this. So I want to leave you all with a tool that will help you to build this vocabulary as well, right? So we can use ChatGPT to answer some of these questions. So I'm just bringing up my screen with ChatGPT to show you how you can do this exercise. Just give me a moment. Okay. So in ChatGPT, I have written some responses for a dummy student profile based on the questions that I put up in the slide previously. So I've said that Aman's a grade 11 student who is passionate advocate for environmental awareness, meaning the student feels really strongly about wanting to support the environment. In his spare time, he started a nonprofit that drives tree plantations around the city. He's very savvy with money, has managed to raise funds for the project as well. So he's spoken to his friends and family, he's spoken to some others in his building and society and tried to raise money to help his NGO plant more trees. He has a team of 5 to 6 volunteers to help him. So he asked his friends at school, his juniors, to help him promote this initiative. He thrives really well in the mathematics class, English, geography, art, and language class. So in quite a diverse set of classes, he is both interested in it and good at it, right? He's a music lover, loves to play his guitar in his spare time. He's a member of the school student council and takes up leadership positions in his school, and always tells his school teachers where he advocates for sustainability. So, for example, he's telling them, let's get rid of plastic bottles in the school, bring in more paper cups. Let's stop using these plastic hoardings that we hang just for one-time use. Can we use more biodegradable material or do it digitally to save that, cost to the environment? And so now that I've listed out these responses, I'm asking ChatGPT to help me with one thing. Based on this profile, please list out the student's aptitude, interest, values, skills, and personal qualities. So now speaking about yourself in an articulate, confident, and clear way is so important when you're engaging with the world in communicating who you are, what you want to do, and how you would like to create impact, right? And how you would like to make a difference. So to do that, this kind of tool can really help us to build the vocabulary or find the right words to be able to speak about ourselves. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say when I put in this prompt. So now ChatGPT is giving me some exciting insights on what Aman's aptitudes are. His aptitude is in math, geography, art, and language. His interest is in environmental awareness, music, leadership, and advocacy. He values environmental stewardship, community service, and taking responsibility. His skills are in fundraising, leadership, communication, teamwork, and his personal qualities are that he's passionate, he's creative, he's organized, and he's committed. And each of this is linking it to one aspect of the response to the questions. This is so exciting because now the next time if Aman was, let's say, an introverted student who was really struggling to speak confidently about themselves, this is a great way to help Aman to build the confidence to do that, right? And we can also ask what, based on this profile, what are some career pathways that are best suited to Aman? And now let's see what ChatGPT has to say. He can be an environmental scientist, a sustainability consultant, an urban planner. He can also be a policy analyst. He can be in nonprofit management, a landscape architect, a research scientist. In say, give me career options other than environmental awareness. So now I'm looking at both sides of this, right? One is that all of the career options listed here are incredibly well aligned to Aman's values, his core values on environmental stewardship, and simultaneously aligned with his skills, his personal qualities, and the things that he basically needs to sustain and do well in this on a day-to-day basis. And now we can get to see on the other side, because when you want to do research, you want to do it for a broad spectrum of opportunities. So we get to see that he could be a data analyst, or data scientist, a graphic designer, a music therapist, a marketing or public relations specialist, an event planner, an education consultant, and so many other opportunities. Now, when we looked at the earlier section, we talked about how students knew of 7 to 9 career options. This is a great starting point to explore other opportunities that are accessible to students. And then you can go into Google search and deep dive into each of these options further, and then really reflect and see if this is right for you or not, right? And I love that one of the metrics that we talked about today was personal values, because in order to make sure that the career path is very meaningfully aligned to creating social impact, it's important to know what you care about deeply and what you value the most as a person, right? So I hope that exercise was helpful in giving you an insight into how you can use technology and use AI to begin your self-exploration and career exploration process. So to conclude the session now, lastly, I just want to invite Purva to read a short note for us. This is an activity that we encourage all students to do to, envision what you can plan your life to be and what kind of impact you can leave on this world. So Purva, over to you.
Right, I'll quickly explain what the activity is also. We ask our students to write a letter to their 21-year-old self. Now, this is not an activity where you're trying to predict the future. This is where you're going to be. It's also about the journey that you're going to take. If right now you're a guitar player, imagine, do you see yourself playing the guitar even at the age of 21, when you're graduating, when you're stepping into your career? So this letter is going to be a lovely reminder for the journey you've had, for the people who've supported you over this time, for the skills you've built, for the challenges you've faced. So even at PlayLab, we ask all of our kids to write this letter, and then we keep it safe. So when they actually do turn 21, we give that letter to them. So that's something that I'm willing to offer all of you as well. If you do write this letter, these are some questions that you can cover. Introduce yourself. What are you proud of about yourself right now? What are some milestones you imagine yourself covering? Some hopes, some dreams, some challenges. Give yourself some encouragement. Mostly it is the adults giving us advice and encouragement, but imagine your younger self giving you encouragement when you reach that age. So if you write that letter, you can send it to me on my email, and you can mention your birth date when you're turning 21. I promise to send it back to you on that date. So it will serve as a lovely reminder for what you had to say to yourself a few years back for when you will turn 21. I'd love to read some parts of a letter that we wrote while explaining this activity to children that work with us. So I hope you like it. All right. Dear future me, I'm so proud of you. You're 21. In most parts of the world now, you're considered an adult. You have just graduated from college and you're ready to take on the world. You have big dreams and ambitions and you are eager to make a difference. You are also scared and confused, wondering what the future holds for you and what you're supposed to do with your life. You have so many questions, but not enough answers. You feel like you need to figure out everything right now, or else you will miss out on things that are planned for you. Well, let me tell you something that I wish I knew all of this too. Don't be overly concerned about your purpose. Yes, you heard me right. Don't stress yourself trying to figure out what is my true calling, what is my ultimate passion. Don't worry that you're meant to find all of this right now. Don't compare yourself to others who seem to have it all figured out or who have achieved more than you have. Don't pressure yourself to make the perfect choice or to follow a predetermined path. You see, your purpose in life is not something you will find or choose. It is something that you will create and you will discover as you go on. It is something that evolves and changes over time as you grow and learn. It is something that emerges from your experiences, your talents, your interests, and values. It is something that is unique to you and that only you can fulfill. Your purpose is not a single thing or a fixed goal. It is a combination of many things that make you who you are and that make you happy. It is a way of living and being that aligns with your authentic self and that contributes to the world in a positive way. It is a journey, not a destination. So, now the big question of how do you really find your purpose? Well, you don't. You create it by doing what you love and being who you are, doing what you're good at. You discover it by exploring different opportunities, possibilities. You reveal it by listening to your intuition and following your curiosity. You express it by sharing your gifts and talents with others. You have only one life to live. Make the most of it. Take care of your health and well being. Be mindful of what you eat and drink so that you can enjoy your body for a long time. Think about the future, but don't forget to live in the present. You are 21 years old. You have so much potential and opportunity ahead of you. You have so much to offer and learn from others. Be deliberate and purposeful in everything you do. You are the star of your own show. Go out there and shine. Go out there and win. Thank you so much, and we wish all of you all the very best for everything that's coming up for you. Thank you for having me again, Kritika.
Thank you, Purva. That was so beautiful, and what a nice reminder to remain alive and present in the moment while we're planning ahead for the future. I think in the hustle of preparation for exam, the pressures of keeping pace with everything, I think we really forget about all the achievements that have already happened and all of the incredible things that are yet to come and what we can achieve in the moment. So what a beautiful reminder. And I really want to encourage all the students to definitely take up that activity and exercise. Send it to Purva, send it to Claylab, and then they can share it back with you when you're 21 and you can reminisce on the growth you've had as well. Thank you to all of the incredible speakers for sharing such beautiful insights, key techniques and takeaways that students can apply back in their day-to-day lives and their time at school. And to end today's session, I'd like to invite Mrs. Neeti Shankar Sharma to give us the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Kritika, and good evening, everyone. I have just joined, an hour ago because I was traveling, but nevertheless, I'll go back again and have a look at the live streaming, which would be available for all of us, I think, Kritika. And as we conclude our series of these 5 virtual workshops today, I must say it has been an incredibly productive and enriching experience, and I extend my heartfelt thanks to all our esteemed panelists and key speakers for their
Ma'am, sorry, you got muted.
A special thank goes to all the members of IC3 who have collaboratively shaped this vision of CBSE. And a special mention, of course, to our guiding force, our chairperson, Shri Rahul Singh, who has been guiding us throughout for this sort of an initiative and counseling. And of course, the CBSE secretary, Shri Himanshu Gupta, our controller of examinations, who was here in the morning as a keynote speaker, Dr. Sayyam Bharadwaj, our director training, Shri Manoj Srivastava, then our director skill education, Dr. Beshri Saha, and of course, not to mention our director regional office and COE Dubai, Dr. Ram Shankar, who has been one of the key speakers and who have been really, really supportive of this initiative, for their unwavering support and guidance throughout this workshop. I would also like to be really, if I would not say that there is a team behind it, and that's the media and PR team who had been, working in and out to make these series, work out for all our stakeholders. And we have been interacting with the teachers, the counselors, the school leaders, and of course, a special session for parents and you, the students, as well. So all these sessions have been designed keeping each stakeholder in mind, and I hope there are some takeaways that would really be beneficial when we move ahead from here in the course of time. And Kritika, as always, you have been a very special moderator, and you've taken the series, throughout in all the sessions, throughout the July sessions that we had with us. Of course, one more person, because this is a Thanksgiving note, and I think don't want to miss on anybody who has been a pillar into making these experiences so beautiful, and how to forget our digital team behind us, and that was headed by Shrimati Gulia, who is our Undersecretary at Department of Training. So Gulia ma'am, thank you so much for being here and trying to make this happen so smoothly. Okay, technical glitches are part of our life, but then again, I should say it was too good to be true. And thank you once again, all of you, for your commitment, for your participations, for your encouragement, and yes, way ahead, what you'll move around and you keep on sharing things with us. So till we meet again, thank you so much from CBSE and from our team here at Media and PR. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neeti ma'am. I just have to take a moment and say that it's a really pioneering effort by CBSE to spotlight a series on why career guidance is so critical in schools, and to engage each and every stakeholder, right? At a policy level with the principals, at the day-to-day action level with the teachers and counselors, and at the ecosystem level with parents, and to ultimately impact our beneficiaries, the students today. I think this has been such a beautiful and pioneering effort by CBSE. Thank you so much for providing the platform, the resources, the support of the incredible leadership that you had just thanked earlier, from Himanshu ji to Ramji to Dr. Saha, to everybody who, and of course, to all of the dignitaries who addressed us and the panelists as well. Each person's insight, the support that you're putting, is not just about this 5-week workshop. I think CBSE's efforts are about creating systemic changes in the country, in the way students' mindsets are being shaped, in the way parents' mindsets are being shaped, how students go forward and make choices that shape our country as a whole. So this series is an effort to just further that at the beginning. Neeti ma'am and the media and PR team, and of course the tech team and everybody else at CBSE has been such an incredible pillar to make this possible. So my heartfelt gratitude to each of you. Thank you so much for giving IC3 the opportunity to collaborate with you as well. And it's been a beautiful learning experience. So deep gratitude to all of you. Please do take a few minutes to fill the feedback form. It's been pinned in the YouTube chat, as well as you can find it right on top of the comment and links. Your insights are going to really help us shape further sessions like this to continue creating impact in the community. So thank you.
And just to add to that, if you have any sort of a feedback regarding you want to have special sessions on certain topics or certain things that are in your mind, please do write to us, and we'll try to see if that can be provided over to you in the coming months and times to be there. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, and have a lovely rest of the day.